Hello, welcome to the program. Ahead, the news of the world scandal takes another nasty turn. An ugly set of circulation data for publishers with across-the-board falls in newspapers and magazines. And very soon we'll meet Nine Network Managing Director Jeffrey Brown. But first, the 10 Network confirmed its job-shedding plans this week, taking the axe to 12% of the workforce, which is even more than most industry analysts had expected. CEO Lachlan Murdoch is taking with one hand and giving with the other, though. Reduced staff numbers will see $18 million in savings annually, but he's ploughing around $50 million back into content. There'll also be a hit of $46 million for redundancies, restructuring, and of course the legal battle over poaching Seven's James Warburton to run the network from next year. Our co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Mediaweek, is here, as he always is. James, good to see you. The 10 job cuts, it was a bigger cut than what we'd been forecasting. I think they were talking about maybe 10%. He went 12.
Yeah, and as you said, that savings around 18 million, and they announced this week, because of that, and I guess some of it was AFL money. They're also saving was a $50 million investment in new content.
Now, on Wednesday night, we learned a little bit more about just where some of that $50 million commitment to programming will go when 10 unveiled its 2012 lineup. It wasn't exactly a secret, but we got confirmation the network will relaunch the iconic Young Talent Time with Rob Mills hosting and Johnny Young co-producing.
What was exciting tonight is that the people felt that Young Talent Time feeling, and I think sometimes they forget it. Young Talent Time wasn't just about music, it's about a feeling, it's about the university for young children and as to watch them grow up and for them to learn.
Someone who's no doubt been watching the restructure and programming developments at 10 with more than a passing interest is the Managing Director of the Nine Network, Jeff Brown, and he joins us now. Jeff, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Carly.
I'll start with either of you, I suppose. The Young Talent Time, is there a gap for another talent-type program out there?
Well, I think it's things like Australia's Got Talent have been doing pretty good business this year. That's part of the thing. 10's sort of thinking, look, we could maybe get some of that audience, that's the X Factor. 9's doing very well. 7's coming up soon. 9's going with The Voice next year. So, it's an area where 10 think, look, we should get back in there. They used to have Australian Idol, of course.
Jeff, tell us a little bit about The Voice and I guess some of the other things that you've got on the horizon.
Well, we're very excited about The Voice, Kylie. It's a big investment for us. We looked through our schedule and we decided we needed a shiny floor show, and we looked all around the world and we think we've picked the best. The US tape version debuted on Go recently and set records in terms of the audience numbers there. We're in the process of casting for our judges and mentors at the moment, and that's again a worldwide search, so we think we're going to set new standards, and this is the latest iteration of this type of genre, and I think it's the best by far. I think it'll be a smash for us.
No update for us on a host or our judges yet, mate? You can't slip any exclusives today?
Nothing I can tell you, James, only that we're working very hard on it, and if you'd like to put in your application, it'll be considered.
James and I might be available.
Well, we'll consider that, Kylie.
Now, you had a slower start to the year than some analysts thought you would. Things have picked up nicely, though, as soon as the block came on air. It's done fantastic business. Has that been sort of solely responsible for the turnaround, and how are you going to capitalise on the bigger audience?
I think, in television now, with the number of channels about, what's very important is you settle on a strategy and you stick with it. Now, we are very clear at Nine on where we're heading. We're very clear on what we are. We're 25 to 54, there's our audience, complemented by Go and Gem. We set out at the start of this year to plan our schedule, and now we're entering a phase which we fully expected we'd get to, where we see great numbers in the block. Underbelly, which is the best in the series by far, launching for us on Sunday night off the back of the block final. New Farmer Wants a Wife. We're able to get Hamish and Andy back on television, which we're very proud of, and very proud of their efforts as well. So we're in good shape. In the last 12 months, we were able to deliver on our stated objective of delivering a 35 share, which we did, a revenue share, and considerably more in our audience share. So we're nicely placed heading to the turn with plenty in the tank.
One of the big success stories has really been cooking, you know, MasterChef's My Kitchen Rules. Why hasn't or has Nine thought about going down that path?
Well, we have, Kylie, and we looked at that, and one of the reasons we chose The Voice because we preferred that format, but those shows are really about the characters in the shows. There's a genre that's about cooking, or The Block's about renovating, but it's about the casting and the characters. That's what the audience engages with, and the great success of The Block, I think, has been not only the format, and this time we moved to houses rather than apartments, but the great characters that people have really got into in our series. So whatever you do, that's important, and it's almost genre non-specific, that, if you get that right.
The TV ad revenue figures released last week seem to indicate, after some nice growth in the back half of 2010, the June quarter slowed down a little bit. As you said, you guys are on close to a 35 share. What's your feeling for how the rest of this year is going to go and into next?
Well, it's hard, James. If you'd asked me a couple of months ago about the stock market, I would have given you an answer that would make me look foolish now. So I think what we've got to do is work hard at our core business, deliver great content, stay close to our advertisers, look at integration opportunities, which we're able to do through the reality shows that we're planning, and just see what that brings. I think a lot of the predictions depend on one's view of confidence in the market, consumer confidence. I would expect there would be some growth in the market in the second half of the year.
Do you see, when we have issues like what we've seen over the past couple of weeks with the market, and then that turns into, you know, renewed talk about consumer confidence, about economic growth, do you see an immediate sort of response from the agencies who are talking to you and from your clients, sort of saying, we just want to hold back a little bit and see what happens?
Perhaps some clients are saying that, but you know, the agencies are well aware of our strategy. We've spoken to them about that. And, you know, again, I'll say that word time and time again, because I think it's very important that we sell our strategy as a business, and you know, we and our agencies have confidence that we'll be able to build an attractive schedule and attract even better share, a better commercial share in the next 6 months or 12 months. Leading up to the Olympic Games next year, which is a great beacon for us in our business and television. So we're between now and then, we've got I think the best schedule I've seen in the 6 years I've been at Nine.
We're about to head into a new AFL television rights deal in 2012. Nine won't be a part of that for the second successive time. Did you come to the same conclusion Lachlan Murdoch might have at 10, that, look, we can maybe better spend this money elsewhere?
Well, slightly different considerations for us, James. I mean, we're essentially an East Coast network, and AFL works very well in Melbourne, but not that well in Sydney and Brisbane, and certainly not in Newcastle, which is very important to us. So for a 5 capital city network, that's more attractive than it is for us, and we have a look at everything and we get involved in everything. We like to know what's going on. We like to know the ins and outs so we can measure what we do in the future against what's happening now. But we weren't disappointed not to acquire the AFL.
Still on sport, the Olympic Games, how are you placed? How are sales going, you know, moving to that?
A fantastic response there, Kylie. We've had very early indications, got most of our main sponsorships set. I think this will be the best Olympic Games ever, and in a sense, whilst it's an unusual time for us in Australia with the zone, it'll mean we'll get great television coming into the start of the day and great television at the end of the day. We're going to do some highlights packages. We've also bought the 3D option, which we'll be showing to give our viewers an even deeper experience. So
3D's not dead?
3D's not dead, but we're still watching it.
Can I just ask you, on the breakfast front, you know, Today's been doing particularly well, making inroads against Sunrise. Now you've got 10 coming out saying from next year they'll have a show, another breakfast show in the same time slot. Is there room?
Well, I guess you'd need to ask 10 that. They obviously think there is. We're very happy with the progress of the Today Show. Again, the team have worked really hard there, and we've developed great chemistry between the cast that are there now. Done very well in Melbourne, making great ground in Sydney, and nearly got them there. So we'll see, but We think the formula we have for our Today Show is the right formula for breakfast television. Others will tell you different. We'll see.
This is a relatively new role for you. I guess maybe 12 months, 8 to 12 months. You've been managing director for the network now, as opposed to, I think, basically running Melbourne. Has your role changed much more? Do you work more with sales? Are you more on the programming side? How do you split your time?
More involvement with sales and programming, I guess, James. The administration of a business as big as ours does take some time and some management. I'm very fortunate, they have David Gingell, who's got a great pedigree and great passion for television, particularly in the programming and the sales area, and he and I work together on that, and he's deeply involved in those two areas as I would want him to be, because he's a great asset for our business. So we've got a great team at Nine. One of the things I'm most proud about, I think we have the best people. And if you look what's coming in the next 12 months, I think we're going to have the best schedule. So if the market maintains its momentum or grows slightly, then we should have a very good 12 months. I expect we will.
All right, Jeff Brown, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kylie.
Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, James.
Now, the News International scandal has blown up again following the release of a letter released by a British parliamentary committee. The letter was written by Clive Goodman in 2007, a former News of the World editor who was jailed for hacking the Royals' mobile phone messages. It alleges a massive cover-up by News International and could well see James Murdoch recalled to front the UK Parliament over what he knew and when. James, it's not going away.
No, there was some expectation that we've talked before about Rebecca Brooks's comments that, look, this thing will possibly get a bit uglier, and it looks like it might turn that way. Implications that lots of people actually did know about this.
Okay. Speaking of News Corp, it's been a rocky ride for the stock over the past week. Here's Chris Weston from IG Markets in Melbourne.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's certainly been a pretty rollercoaster ride for News Corp shareholders. I think anyone who was brave enough to buy after the report that we saw on the 11th has certainly been rewarded. The stock's up about 13%. In fact, we actually reached the high the other day of about $16.55. I think the market and the analyst community certainly like the fact that they are going to be aggressively buying back stock. That's something that people have wanted to see for a long time in terms of putting that cash to work. We've also seen billionaire hedge fund investor in the US, John Paulson, put $176 million to work as well and buying a big stake there. So you tend to do what these hedge fund managers are doing. You tend to piggyback those guys and get involved. So the fact that he's bought has certainly attracted quite a bit of attention into the stock. And the stock's done very well in the fact that we've seen these allegations from Clive Goodman, the ex-Raw correspondent, suggesting that phone hacking has been around for quite some time. So the stock's actually performed very well. And if you look at the bottom side of things, and everyone's looking very closely at APN today with their results, which have disappointed, APN certainly prior to today has disappointed the market, and the stock was down about 54% year to date, followed by Seven West down about 53%, Fairfax down about 40%. Now the result from APN today looks quite weak on paper. There are some optimistic signs in the result, but generally the market sold it off. It's down about 6.7%. If you look at net profit pre-exceptionals, down 46% to around $21.8 million. Now that was 13% below Credit Suisse's estimates. It was below the consensus in the market, so certainly that's helped, well, being the main reason why the stock's off significantly today. The dividend at 3.5 cents is below what the market was looking for as well. Now they pre-guided the market in what they expected from the EBIT, interest before interest and tax, back in May, and they said they were expecting a $15 to $20 million decline in that first half number. Now the actual EBIT number was down 24% to 66 million, which was okay. The revenue was flat, so top line okay, the $508 million. That was in line with the expectations of the market, if not slightly above. And divisionally, if you break it down, New Zealand Publishing, which makes up about 28% of their revenue, was okay. I mean, it was down 5%, but it's okay. The Australian Regional Publishing was down about 4%, again slightly above the consensus in the market. The one we're looking at very closely is Outdoor Publishing, or outdoor revenue there, which they made was up about 11%, about 15% on a consistent currency basis, and that was where the growth is really coming from, and that's the shining light within their asset suite. Australian and New Zealand Radio was pretty flat, no real growth coming through there, and no real growth expected to come in the near term. The outlook for the company is that they're seeing good signs coming through. They're expecting a strong trading period coming up, and they've got a strong order book coming through, but they are expecting a flat second half, so that's going to be an interesting place to be. What we did see as well overnight, Goldman Sachs cutting their GDP forecast. and also suggesting that advertising for next year is going to be around about 2%. They previously expected about 5.1%. So again, another headwind for APN. The stock's getting hammered today, nearly down about 7%.
Yeah, not a great day on the market for APN today, James, after the result. But I think one of the other things I wanted to ask you about was that they've made an announcement of some acquisitions as well. Yeah,
a couple of digital companies, CC Media, which is a online catalogue distribution business, and then a sports tipping business in New Zealand. Tipping platform Jamungo, I think is how you pronounce that. A lot of big companies now looking to expand their holdings, digital businesses that are doing well. ESPN is a company that picked up an Australian footy tipping company this week, so I think there'll be a fair bit of activity there for the remainder of the year.
All right, we have to take a break, but coming up on Media Week, a negative print, the latest circulation and readership figures in newspapers and magazines. A warning, they're not pretty.